welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. We are in session D. You are in session 2 called Speeding Up Change with Video Learning. Today I am here with Cari, Warnock, and Gaynell, Lyman. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you too so much for being here. And I am going to bow out gracefully and let you all take it.
Thanks, Melissa. Well, fast forwarding a decade of change in 1 year feels like we're moving faster than ever. So today we decided to title our presentation about speeding up change with video learning. And so we hope to take you on a journey today, and we invite you to join us. A journey of exploration, adventure, throwbacks to the decades of old if you've been teaching a while, and some future proofing for the decade ahead. You know, has it felt like our kids and our students are growing up at an accelerated pace? To match that, teaching and learning are accelerating too. The skills, knowledge, and disposition that our kids need for the future of our planet is incumbent upon us as teachers, and we have 180 days. You have 180 days. Make each one count. So how can you make efficacy speed up? How can you accelerate change? We invite you to join us.
Hi, I'm Gaynell Lyman. I'm coming to you today from Richmond, Virginia. I've been in education for, Cari made me count, 27 years, and super excited to be here with you today.
And I'm Cari Warnock. I'm an education strategist with Dell, and I've been in education 26 years, which we found out earlier today. I just have one less year than Gaynell does. So we want to tell you a little bit about our current roles and what we love most about what we get to do now. So Gaynell, tell me what you love most about your job.
So Cari, I'm the Director of Innovative Learning Systems for Advanced Learning Partnership, and I really liken myself to an explorer, a designer, and an integrator. I feel like I'm really in my zone when I am doing some horizon scanning, creating, and then getting out and really implementing what I've learned.
Wow, sounds like a really fun job.
How about you? What's your favorite part?
My favorite part is getting to support K-12 educators all over North America. So I get to support K-12s, and I also support a club called Girls Who Game, and it's a Dell and Microsoft club, and I just love that. It's my passion. You know, we're trying to represent the underserved girls in 4th through 8th grade and getting them into that STEM pipeline. So that's my favorite part of the day. But, you know, being a teacher also means we're lifelong learners. So, you know, what's the last thing you learned, Gaynell, and how'd you learn it?
That's crazy, because just yesterday I was working in a database and I felt like I was just duplicating efforts and had to replicate processes. And so I went to the help section and had a little video on what I was trying to accomplish. And after just that 30-second video, I recognized where I was duplicating my efforts and found a much quicker way to do it. So that 30-second video probably saved me 30 minutes. It was awesome.
Nice. Love those kind of time savers, right?
How about you? Have you experienced any new learning recently?
Yeah, you know, I've been watching some YouTube videos recently on how to, you know, relax and de-stress and, you know, maybe decrease anxiety. So yeah, I've been watching a lot of videos lately, doctors and all kinds of people just trying to find new strategies. It's fun.
Yeah, so I'm starting to sense a theme here around how we're learning through video. We didn't have so much video though back when we entered the education arena. Do you remember that moment when you knew you wanted to be a teacher?
Yeah, you know, so I was in 6th grade and I had this teacher named Mr. Cadlick, and he did a play every year with the students, and that year it happened to have a school teacher in the play. And I remember sitting on stage at the teacher's desk thinking, wow, I get to influence all these people, which of course were my peers in my class, but it just seemed really cool that I would be able to do that. And so I think 6th grade play.
That's
what about,
awesome.
You know, sometimes like maybe not even influencing us into the career, but sometimes once you're in your career, you start to think differently about either the job or teaching and learning. And so did you hit a point like that in your job where you just felt differently about teaching and learning?
Yeah, I can remember when our school district went 1-to-1, And I was just having a hard time getting the computer to do what I wanted it to do. And I remember my student, Brian, we'll call him Brian because that was his name. Brian said, "Miss Lyman, do whatever you need to do to make that dialog box go away. You can't break it in a way that I can't fix it." And in that moment, he didn't realize the genius of his comment, but he really just gave me permission to take risks. Because he was right. Like, I couldn't break it. He was brilliant. I couldn't break it in a way he couldn't fix it, but it gave me an opportunity to take chances, to welcome my students into the learning with me. And I think up until then, I thought I was supposed to be the one that knew everything, and partnering with my kids to learn. Definitely empowered both them and me to take risks and kind of think outside of the box.
I'm glad you mentioned risks, because we're about to invite this whole group to take some risks today.
Yeah, for sure. So we want to invite you today to stay curious, to take risks, find your Brian or find your collaborator to walk alongside you. All right. So with a session titled Speeding Up Change with Video Learning, it seems like it would only be natural and appropriate to start with a video. So this particular video is one that every time I watch it, it inspires me to be part of the change that our future needs. So we're going to take time to watch it together. I'm really drawn to this video, and not just because of those dancing robots or those jumping robots, but because I know those jumping robots can also dance. They've got some crazy dance moves. So if you haven't seen them, I'd encourage you to Google and look for them. But because this video I know was produced in 2019, right? So that was 2 years ago. And some of the technologies we see there around restaurant technology and Amazon delivery, that's no longer the technology of the future. That's current technology. So we're not looking at it for just something that was produced 2 years ago is no longer innovative. And that just blows my mind because the education industry isn't particularly known for keeping up with the times. But we've been offered an opportunity with our most recent disruption to really fast forward our teaching learning practices. And I've been saying for 20 months that we have a moral imperative to use what's available to us now to figure out how to do that. And I wonder if we turn to our students, turn to our Bryans for some inspiration.
Absolutely.
Oops, sorry.
That video really wants to play for us today, right? Well, here's some statistics. Did you know that there are about 5 million videos watched daily on Insta, which is about 70% of the viewership that's on there? And, when I start thinking about that, and I think about, the kids that grew up with Insta and their learning style, and I start thinking about how they can crowdsource in seconds or minutes what would have taken us weeks or months. Like I was really thinking about this earlier. I would have needed to, hang up a sign on a bulletin board or on a post somewhere that said missing dog. They can now put it out on social media and they can find their dog within minutes. And so I really think that the learning style of our students has to be captured as well. But that also then made me think about, what are the kids today scrolling about? And Gaynell, you have 2 teenagers at home. What are they scrolling about? What are they learning?
Yeah. So I was in the car with both of them yesterday, and knowing that we were going to talk today, I paid close attention to what they were scrolling. And so in our maybe 7-minute drive, there were a couple of really bad dad jokes that found their way out. I heard a recording of a solution to an SAT math problem that I thought was interesting. I learned that some YouTuber has released some new merch. So I had to go look up merch and found out it's just really expensive t-shirts. I heard about some high performance car engine, something that didn't really connect with me. But what did connect with me was that I learned that from their scrolling, that 50% of 26 is the same as 20% of 26% of 50. And so I did a couple of tests on that and realized, wow, that'll work every time. That's cool. So I, kind of reflecting back on what I heard over that 7 minutes, it was kind of interesting to me that there was a combination of things that would spark my kids' intellectual curiosities, as well as a bunch of random trivia that might make them interesting to talk to at a party.
Yeah, and we're getting to go back to spaces where we can be around each other, maybe go to a party and be interesting. And so some of those things sound like interesting topics.
Yeah. So Cari, I wonder what we can learn from our kids scrolling that could improve our impact as educators.
It's a really great question. And I hope that we can take ourselves into that space about why would we want to take video of ourselves to learn, right? And so we want to talk a little bit about the inner critic.
And so for a whole bunch of reasons, Cari, we're going to get to that inner critic, but for a whole bunch of reasons, we believe there's a connection between leveraging video that comes with reflective practice and what we believe kids can do. We know that there's research out to show the direct correlation between teacher efficacy and student achievement. And so what we want to try to do is draw connections between our reflective practice as educators through teacher efficacy to student achievement in order to enhance learner outcomes. So really promoting intentional strength-based reflection and seeing what that looks like from the perspective of our students and their learning.
That makes sense.
I know, Cari, you recently had an opportunity to do some reflecting with video, and I wonder if you might unpack your thoughts around that and the power of that experience for you and your colleague.
Yeah, so, I know I'm in front of a bunch of friends here, all my teacher friends on the line, so I'll be really vulnerable and transparent here, but this week I had to actually record something for my job. Funny, right? Ironic, because I'm in the middle of creating this presentation about how I can fast forward efficacy by using recordings of myself to reflect. So, of course, I had to take that with a grain of salt since this is the week we're presenting. But what was my natural instinct? My natural instinct was that inner critic, right, on my shoulder. I wanted to be critical of my nonverbal cues, of my body language. At one point, I even moved my hair, and it drove me crazy. For the first 30 seconds, I was ignoring what I was saying because I was looking at my nonverbal cues. But once I got past my own inner critic and I could watch it again and really focus on the content, was the content even any good? Was I paying attention to my audience and my listeners? Did I impact the bottom line of my learning outcomes? Did the environment harm or help my message? Was it effective? And furthermore, what could I have done to make it better? So a colleague and I decided we would be vulnerable with each other, share our videos, and talk through each other's perspectives. And hearing his perspective helped me think of ways I could actually get better. And so, as I think about what we've asked you to do here today, which is consider recording yourself or consider using video to really become more effective, I started to do my homework on research. All of us were students at one time, or maybe you are a student now. And, I always loved those grad school research articles I had to read. And so I went and read Craig Gerald's Believing in Achieving article, where he talks about improving student performance, ameliorating the effects of socioeconomic status, and enhancing parent and teacher relationships. And I was like, wow, this idea of teachers believing students can has a really big effect on their actual performance. So someone believing that I could do this video project had a really big impact on my performance as well.
So, Cari, what I hear you saying is it's really hard to see yourself on video, and sometimes that initially gets in the way of your ability to look at it objectively. But that's the power of video, right? You described being able to ask yourself questions and get a really immediate response from the objective video that you could watch. As a result, not only did you get better, but your belief in others around you changed and increased. And that's pretty powerful.
Yeah, so I would just recommend that all of you who want to take a risk after today, find a friend, find a colleague, and get comfortable. And with that said, we'd like to give you a little reflection time right now, because we think it's really important as we're talking to give you some time to really reflect and think. So we're going to do a 90-second pause. We would invite you to reflect, maybe create a curiosity journal for yourself. Or maybe just sit and meditate on these questions. What do you anticipate your inner critic will say when you record and reflect? How will you overcome the inner critic? And who will you choose to support you through this process? So let's pause for 90 seconds and allow you to create a curiosity journal of your own. Well, I hope you got a good start on your curiosity journal, and I hope you'll keep it going. And I hope you'll really take this risk and find a friend and let yourself be vulnerable and just, shoot a video of yourself this weekend just so you can watch it. If you're someone who loves selfies, you'll probably be okay with it. But, go ahead and just take a risk this weekend and try something new.
Cari, thanks for reminding us that we need to be really intentional about scheduling time to reflect, that it doesn't just happen. So appreciate you working that in.
So, collective teacher efficacy, or CTE, not career in tech ed, but a different CTE, collective teacher efficacy. It is the collective belief of John Hattie's work that a faculty and their ability to make a positive effect on students has to do with their achievement, and it is strongly correlated back to their own belief systems as a faculty. In other words, you have numbers when your whole faculty believes in something. And of all the 250 plus influences that John Hattie's work researched, they were looking for effect sizes, right? They were looking to see what would make the biggest impact on student achievement. Well, a faculty that believes it can collectively accomplish great things for the health of their school will more than likely, very likely do so and have a positive difference in students. The effect size of just that simple thing of collective teacher efficacy was larger than some of the things you might have thought would have made a big difference in students' academic achievement. But it was larger than feedback. It was larger than socioeconomic status. It was larger than almost everything on the list that he was studying. So I would encourage you, get with your colleagues, get with your principal, get with whoever you trust in your school and say, we have a collective belief. And together we are going to achieve more because it's possible.
Cari, the last 19 months has really just prevented us from having those collective experiences. You know which ones I'm talking about, right? Like the conversations about a strategy you tried over the water cooler or the lunchroom table, or maybe just casually being able to pop into a colleague's classroom. The demands of our jobs over the last 19 months and the physical environment has really prevented that from happening. And that's why I love video, because video allows us to break down those silos and come together. And if we're careful and intentional, we can leverage it to find ways to build that collective efficacy as a group and our individual teacher self-efficacy. So video will always be a go-to solution for me. And because I have a personal connection, just like Cari does. Cari described working with a colleague and how that is impacting her practice. Well, my daughter just started running competitively. And as parents, we can give describe as often as we can suggestions for how she might get better. But none of that helped until she saw herself on video. When she saw herself on video running, she immediately was able to draw a connection between what we were describing that she did and what she actually did. And within minutes, it was amazing. She changed her cadence, and we've consistently watched her drop time off her 5K pace. And we're so proud of her for being really reflective and intentional about applying new strategies based on what she was able to see and feel. And we could talk about sports applications all day long, football coaches, watching tape, whatever, right? But we are finding as we look out into the world of work that video is being leveraged in so many fields, in surgery, in car mechanics, in the law field, just everywhere. And so I think there's something to be said about the value that video brings. Donald Schoon, in his book, Reflective Practitioner, How Professionals Think in Action, defines reflective practice as a dialogue of thinking and doing, which I love because it's simple enough that I can remember it, a dialogue of thinking and doing. It's that knowledge that we develop through the reflection that leads to us becoming more skillful. And Schoon, remarkably, was heavily influenced by John Dewey, who used words like active, persistent, and careful consideration when we find reflection. So when I kind of mash those up and push them together, my takeaways are that reflection is really intentional, that it takes time, and that it requires work to close that knowing and doing gap. And video learning is one strategy that can help us accelerate, fast forward into that deeper reflection that results in the change that we hope to see.
I'd like to kind of pick on that comment a little bit too, because the video that I shot was only 4.5 minutes, but I think my reflection time was probably triple or quadruple that. So definitely you have to make the time, right? And so how do we kind of just get started? Like, what are some ideas for a quick start to be more reflective, use video as a way to become more, effective at our practice of teaching? How can we do that, Gaynell?
Yeah. We're going to leave you with some protocols because I love protocols. Because a protocol helps us stay true to process and not skip the hard parts. So what I've done for today, or what we've done today, is to bring a video to you. The video that we're going to use for our little engagement activity is not educationally based. Because what we know is that when we're trying to learn a process, if we are also trying to learn content, it's hard. It's hard to learn a content and a process at the same time. And I really want you to focus on a protocol process. And so we're going to watch something that's not related to education. I'm going to pop over to TikTok. Our kids use TikTok. Why don't we? Okay, so this TikTok video shows someone doing something rather interesting. I'm going to leave this up and let it scroll through a few times. For those of you that are familiar with TikTok, it'll just continue to scroll. And I want you, over the course of the next few minutes, the next 90 seconds or so, see what you notice. Like, you might even start a little T-chart on a piece of paper next to you. What do you notice? And what do you wonder? Easy protocol. What do you see? And what questions does that bring up for you?
I'm noticing that he doesn't have a dog running up trying to get all those ping pong balls, because my dog would have been chasing them.
Yeah. I noticed that right at the very end of that clip, the time clock on the screen said 4.5 minutes or 4.5 hours.
Wow.
That's a long time. That's a lot of trials.
It's a long time.
I also noticed right about here, the camera angle changes, right? Yeah, there. Do you see that?
I wonder if there was some editing there.
Yeah. You know, I wondered a lot of things too, Cari. I wondered, like, how many attempts did it take? Because that doesn't show up. I guess we'd have to ask him. I also wondered, like, what was he thinking throughout that? You can see him at times hold his head. And I wondered what was going through his mind. I wondered if he was, like, altering his angle or approach. And if he'd watched any of his video back to get ideas about which trials worked and which ones didn't. Yay!
Yeah.
Congratulations.
We have to wonder if he used that video to make some adjustments, right? To see where the angle was going to make the ball hit or things like that. We have to wonder, and I'm sure he had to have made some kind of adjustments, just like when you do in dominoes, right?
Yep. And it works that way just for teaching as well. We can see ourselves in practice, and we can make just one small change. Like, we don't have to make big changes all the time. We can make one small change and watch its impact.
And I think the key there is, you have to be comfortable enough to take the chance to say, okay, I'm going to record myself. I'm going to look at my space. I'm going to look at the angles, and then I'm going to make some adjustments and then record again and see if that works or if that changes anything. So it's that's that reflection piece again. It really takes time. And I mentioned earlier, it probably took me quadruple the amount of minutes that my video was long in order to reflect, right? So there is some time that you have to invest here. But Gaynell has some great protocols that she'll share with you. She's going to unearth a couple right now, but at the end, if you stay till the end, you'll have the QR code to all of our resources today.
So, Cari, you said it's hard to watch yourself on video, and it certainly is. And so we're always looking for protocols or strategies to help welcome teachers into the whole idea of using video. And not everybody's ready to start where Cari did. Some of us need to watch some found video. So we might find video of practices that we're trying to emulate on resources like the Teaching Channel or Khan Academy, or you've probably got some other favorites. So we might find, maybe even Pinterest, right? We might find some examples of some video that we can watch, that we can look at intentionally to practice using protocols like notice and wonder to help us reflect. And then when you are ready to jump in and maybe capture some video, you don't necessarily have to capture video of yourself. You might, and this is a strategy I use with folks when we're first starting off with video learning, is to give me a tour of your classroom space. So walk around so you're on the back side of the camera and show me what I see in your classroom. Gives us an opportunity to start listening to finding that inner critic, right? The one that's saying, oh, I can't believe you said so many times, or you can't hold the camera straight, or all those things, right? And so it's okay to process a little bit and learn to hear yourself on camera before you turn the camera back on yourself. And that's when you're ready to do that, reflecting on your own video can be amazing, right? It might be a self-interview, right? You ask yourself some questions and you answer them. Or you might capture yourself on video and watch that. And honestly, 90% of the time that I've captured myself on video, I never show it to anybody because I watch it myself and I say, well, I've seen that and I'm not ever going to do that again. Nobody needs to see that. So sometimes just the process of capturing and making yourself watch it helps you see just one small thing that you might be able to change. And then as you progress in your comfort of being, seeing yourself on video, you might be ready to share with somebody else, right? There's that big risk and where you find your Brians, your collaborators with whom you might want to learn. And you might do it individually with a trusted colleague. You might be in a PLC or a study group that's really focused in a particular area. There are a couple of protocols I really love. One of them is learning walks, right? So if we're in a position right now where we can't visit each other's classrooms, maybe we can capture them and bring them to a shared space where we can watch them. And we don't even have to do it synchronously. We can put those videos in a shared folder somewhere where we have access and we can watch them. And so we can almost like walk through their classroom, do a little learning walk or an instructional round without having to leave our own classrooms, which is hard right now. The other thing I love is getting together with a group of colleagues who have a similar interest. So we might be focused on collaboration strategies or helping our students make thinking visible. And so we might come together to say, hey, let's all capture this happening in our classroom, capture our students engaging in activities that we designed for them and unpack what is effective and where are some areas for improvement. I know as a science teacher, whenever I got an opportunity to watch a social studies teacher or an English teacher, those were completely outside of my comfort zone. But I was able to see strategies because I wasn't focused on the science. I could focus on the strategy and really think about how I could take what they did with the same kids that I teach and do it in my content area. It made me better. So what I'm trying to describe here is that we've got a continuum of entry points. If you're interested in leveraging video to enhance your own reflective practice, to increase your self-efficacy or collective efficacy, and as a result, increase student achievement. Hang on, really, protocols are coming.
All really good points. And so, today we've invited you to take this journey with us, right? And we needed to fast forward over the last 19 months, and your theme is a decade in a year. And so, who are you going to collaborate with? As we learned earlier, the collective efficacy of teachers will always be greater than any one individual person. And I know there are many of you in the chat. And as a matter of fact, I kept my video of myself on a different screen so I couldn't see it, which meant I didn't see your chat either, as to not become distracted by my video, right? Because it is hard. It's not something that comes easy or naturally to everyone. And because this, wasn't an interactive session where we could see you on video, that also made it really much more complicated. But we hope that you'll find a collaborator and that you'll join in this effort of, this idea of collective impact. Together, we can make a big difference.
Thanks, Cari. I'm really appreciative that you were my collaborator. So friends, pull out your phones or put your fingers to your keyboard because we've pulled together a Leave Behind resource. We wanted to provide you with access to some of the assets that we use today along with a collection of protocols that you can use yourself, with colleagues. If you're a coach or an administrator, you can use with your teachers or the colleagues on your role profile.
So if you're a mentor to a new teacher, or you're a mentor to someone new to the grade level or new to the department, often in those coaching protocol courses that you take, you get different tools and different things you can put in your tool belt. And so there are just a few things here that can amplify the impact that you're going to have. Or maybe you're someone who you want to take the clinical educator training and you want to become certified in Florida so that you can do these walkthroughs. So if that's you, or if you're really reaching, it's like a stretch goal, you might want to put it in the chat so that other people can then support you as your collaborator as you go through the clinical ed training. And as you start to decide that you might want to try this, and maybe the person you're mentoring or coaching, you all can share video of each other. And that could be the first vulnerable place you start. So use the chat today to share other ideas with your colleagues as well.
Cari, I love that idea because it's so much easier for me to be vulnerable with somebody that I don't work with, that I don't know why, but that's interesting that I might make a connection here with somebody that could help me with that. Great recommendation. So I'll come back to that slide in a minute in case you were still typing or getting that QR code up. I just want to show you what you've got. So we're leaving behind a link to the Future of Work video. If you really liked that, you can access it here. If you're curious about Hattie's research, that's here as well. And then the continuum of protocols that I described for entry points to video learning, right? So if you're just getting started and not quite sure about this yet, try some of those in that top panel, that gold color. If you're already comfortable seeing yourself on camera and you're ready to do some more, we've got a couple of recommendations there for our favorite protocols. And then when you're ready to welcome your colleagues into the conversation, there are a couple of down there at the bottom that, along with some questions for each of those levels, that can help direct your conversations and keep conversation going. So here's your last chance to grab that QR code or that bit.ly link if you haven't already. And then I want to invite you, like Brian invited me, to take a risk and commit to one small thing related to video learning that you can commit to next week. So take a moment to reflect. And I'd encourage you to do one of two things with your commitment. Either write it down or share it with a friend. Somewhere I feel like I read that you're 51% more likely to follow through on a commitment if you've told someone about it or if you've written it down. I don't know if that's true, but if that's what it takes to help you maintain fidelity with a commitment that you want to make, we'd invite you to do one of those simple things.
Well, I know we have people putting things in the chat about they were thinking they should be doing this, and maybe they'd like to record themselves, and maybe they can just shoot some video this week. It might be a great time to do that. During the video that we were watching earlier, where they showed the parade, and it was, I believe, early 1900s. And I began reflecting, it only took them 13 years to go from one car, and then the next slide showed one horse, right? And so I started thinking, gosh, 100 years ago in education in 1921, how different was it from today, right? And so I think we have fast forward, we have accelerated growth in our own practice. We've had to stay current and relevant, but also we've had to speed up change over the last year and a half. So you all have been doing this work. We commend you. We applaud you. Keep up the good work. We have 180 days to make a difference. So let's keep doing that. And let's speed up change with video learning. Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you all for your time today. I'm going to flip back to the slide with the QR code. In case you didn't get a chance to get it, we want to make sure you get those leave behind resources. We're appreciative of your time, your willingness to take risk, and your commitment to not just your own growth, but that of your students.
Hi, guys. Thank you so much. What a wonderful presentation. At the bottom left of your screen, you should be able to see that QR code that Cari and Gaynell were sharing. I hope you guys enjoyed this session. I know that I learned a lot. Such amazing information. I can't believe they built an entire home with a 3D printer in 24 hours. I have a 3D printer. It's a MakerBot. It's probably not the same thing, but it takes me about 24 hours to build a dinosaur about this big. So that blew me away. I was shocked. But thank you both so much for taking the time, for being here. The QR code link is at the bottom of the screen. It's also in the chat. And feel free, I believe their information is in the session description if you need to get in touch with either of them. Thank you so much. You all have a great day. Next is the closing session. So we hope to see you all there. And
Thank you.
Thank you.